Okay, should be back live now. May have to tweak my camera, seeming like it's a bit fuzzier now. I kept the zoom setting, so I don't know. Back on Twitch. Let me know if YouTube is back. If anyone, excuse me, if anyone can. It lives, it dies, it lives again. Yep. Hello. I'm sorry if it's like repeatedly pinging everyone that I'm live. Yeah, it looks like the bot has definitely done that. Show's fine for me on YouTube. Okay. Yay, we're back? Yes, you're back. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Like, I tried to recycle the stream because it was having some connectivity issues, and I switched which invest server it's on. But then when I tried to stop YouTube, it just got hung and refused to actually stop. So I had to, like, completely kill OBS. But everyone should be back. I know some people are like, Cad, we missed it. We didn't get to see it. I went through it. That's all I can say. I don't have the time to keep going through it again. General TLDR is King Protea Alter, very strong, a little bit surprisingly so. I really questioned the devs and why they gave her so many like ways to increase damage on top of just having what I believe to be is the game's highest attack stat. Someone would have to tell me otherwise, but I think 12.9 might actually be it. Like, let me double check Jalter. Okay, Jalter is 13.2. So Jalter is not as high as or higher than I remembered. But still, yeah, this is way up there in terms of attack stat. Can we tone down on the PMod spams? This is tiring. Yeah, I honestly I kind of agree with you. Like, I know like Avalon's sitting there doing a lot of the number crunching for me, and it's like I empathize with him. There's no real reason we should have to go over this many niches. Like, why does one unit need this many? It really doesn't make sense. It's just like they made so much scaling in King Protea Alter's kit, and I just don't get it. Love you. Have to ask the question: would you say she is better Seal, Seal power creep, or is it a lot of agenda posting happening? That's an interesting question. Just to quickly pull this up. Honestly, it depends on what you're using it for. If you are using it for just like clearing your way through nodes, KPA is probably better. If you're looking at it as a boss killer, as a challenge quest unit, Seal is better. And I'm going to give you the reason why. Right here, right now. It's right here, chat. This is one hell of a drug. This makes Seal just unkillable at points. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've done a difficult fight, had Seal in the back line, she comes out, or just was in the front line. Like, Seal was the unit I was using for the CQ. And Seal was the last person standing, easily. Like, not even close. Nobody even remotely held a candle to her survivability. So it's the fact that she has 100% defense and the fact that she heals per turn. I think the issue with King Protea Alter is going to be that a lot of her survivability is Giant's protection status. And the problem with this skill is, one, that it can be removed, it can be pierced, and also that it literally shares the same uses with your allies. So that makes it, as a whole, less protective unless you are soloing. Yeah, I think Seal is just infinitely harder to kill. King Protea is a little bit more offensive. And that's really all that I see. If you ask me which one of these two, like, take away the character name, take away the character appearance, give me just their kits. If you ask me which of these two units would I rather have in a vacuum, I can only have one. It would be Seal 10 out of 10 times. Just because of that kit. But, yes, this is a little bit power creep in terms of damage output. But that's why I answered that the way that I did. I think it really depends on what you're trying to go for. And truly, like, I mean, the fact that you're even in the conversation with Seal is already just a sign of, like, how broken this unit is. So, it'd be what it be, chat. Okay, next up. Next up, we have Biscone. Because somehow, some way, we still have not talked about her. So let's talk about Biscone, Bichone. I don't really know how we say her name. Either way, when she came out on JP, I think people liked the design aesthetic of the character. I don't think she was a, like, unpopular unit. But I don't think a lot of people rolled for her because her kit was decidedly delayed over time, something that had a little bit of a wind up. And I think players are very much in the instant gratification, instant payoff like meta where they want things and they want them now. So I don't think a lot of people rolled Bichone Lancer. And I think putting her in as a summer unit is an interesting choice. I think it's certainly something that we could question, but ultimately, I think she is poised to become a much more popular character due to her inclusion as a summer unit. Giving her exposure in the summer event, giving her more time to be, like, developed and actually allow the player to spend time with this character will help her out a lot. Bichone is coming to us as another AoE arts caster. So she is the epitome of a unit you do not have to have. But she's a 4-star on multiple banners. So she's a unit that, even though you don't have to have her, you're very likely to pick her up. So we're still going to talk about how to use her properly. We're going to start out by talking about her stats, go through her entire kit, talk about her Noble Phantasm, put her into some compositions, talk about her refund scenarios, and obviously talk about her damage. So make sure you guys stick around until the end. So starting out here, you guys can see she only has about 9.1k attack. This is not bad, actually. This is fairly average, but it is certainly on the lower end of what we've seen recently for 4-stars. Most 4-stars nowadays are 9k or better. Her HP is at about 11.6. It's certainly not very robust, but it's not the worst, especially for a 4-star. She's Earth attribute, has 49 star absorption, which isn't great, but it is a caster star absorption. Her star generation is 11.2, definitely decent for a caster at that point. And her NP charge attack is only 0.3, so that is certainly a concern right there. But will it be a concern in the end? We're going to show you guys the kit and explain why it probably won't be. Her death rate's all the way up at 34.5%, so do be a little bit careful with how you use her and who you use her against. And her alignment is chaotic balanced. She's female gender, and her basic traits are animal characteristic, demonic, demonic beast, dragon, humanoid, non-hominid, serpent, normal servant, Seven Night servant, summer mode servant, and weak to Intima Elish. So again, another laundry list of traits. She has a triple arts deck, which at least is going to allow for triple arts formations for charging your NP, or maybe allowing other units in the party alongside her to get to their NP as well. So I've always liked triple arts just for NP spam capabilities, and it certainly is nice to see it on an arts unit. She does only have the single Buster and Quick card, though, so that's something you're going to want to watch out for if your goal here is to try to generate stars or, just deal a crap ton of damage. Still, hit counts here are all average or better, with only the extra attack being below average at 4. Her active skills start out with her first one having a charge to her own NP gauge by up to 30%, and then charging her own NP gauge by 10% every turn for 3 turns. It does have that delayed effect. It's also going to increase her own buff removal resistance 1 time, 3 turns for 100%. Definitely nice that it has a multi-turn duration there, because it can be difficult to time when an enemy is going to charge to full and then strip you with their NP, or use a skill and spam the skill. Taking a look at her second skill, it's Party Arts Performance for 3 turns by 20%, increasing their crit damage for 3 turns by 30%, increasing their damage against enemies with poison status for 3 turns as a power modifier there for 30%, and further increasing the party's arts performance on waterside battlefield for 3 turns by an additional 20%. On top of all of this, she's going to gain critical stars every single turn for 3 turns, up to 15 per turn. Taking a look at her third skill here, it's going to inflict poison with 500 damage for 5 turns to all enemies. This is a nice long duration, certainly something we'd like to see. It's also going to increase her own attack for 3 turns by 20%, and increase her own damage against the enemies with the poison status by 10% times N for 3 turns, with N being the poison status stack count, up to a maximum of 10. So again, the more poisons you have, the more damage you're going to get as a power modifier against that. On top of this, she's also going to grant herself a debuff on attack for 3 turns that's going to inflict poison with 500 damage for 5 turns to the enemy whenever she attacks activating first. So this is also another thing that everything that she does when she activates this skill is going to poison the enemy and keep poisoning them and keep poisoning them. It's also going to grant herself buff regeneration, which activates at the start of the player's turn for 2 times, that inflicts poison with 500 damage for 5 turns to all enemies. So this does mean as she advances through the waves, there will immediately be a stack applied to the enemy. So in other words, you carry a buff on you that at the beginning of each turn inflicts poison to all enemies. Definitely a nice application and a way around the rather annoying aspect of debuffs not applying every single wave like buffs do. Taking a look at her passive skills, she has magic resistance, item construction, dragon kind here for additional buster performance and damage taken reduction. A rumored new employee that gains her 10 critical stars when she first enters the field. So sort of like having one of those star bomb CEs equipped. A corporate culture comprehension that increases her own NP gen rate by 5%. So it's going to help out that 0.3% that she has as her normal NP attack rate. And then Glorious Proof of a Working Adult's going to increase her critical star generation, and the long-awaited paid vacation is going to increase her critical damage. So just overall, across the board, they bumped her kind of passive stats up. Taking a look at her pin skills here, she has the anti-ruler attack damage aptitude. Again, it's rather rare, but I really don't recommend it. It's not going to be the best use of your caster's append skills. For this, instead, you maybe want to look at mana loading for starting charge, maybe even skill reloading for getting the skill cooldowns down. The fourth skill and the first skill here can also be a decent one if you manage to find yourself with too many coins. The Noble Phantasm is an 8-hit AoE Arts NP that's going to grant self NP extraction buff for 1 turn activating first. The NP extraction buff will charge her own NP gauge by 10% per enemy hit if the target has poison status when attacking with a Noble Phantasm, which should basically always be the case unless your skill is on cooldown. So again, this one's just going to just immediately grant you 10% per enemy at that point. It's going to then deal damage to all enemies, reduce their defense by 20% for 3 turns after the fact, and then inflict toxic poison for 3 turns to them. That's going to increase poison damage by 100%. So based off of all the poison stacks that you'll have, this is definitely going to make her, again, a little bit of a wind-up unit, but one that is more smartly designed than her original form, and one in which you can really stack those poison modifiers and actually get a good rolling dot going on an enemy, especially if it's in a challenge environment. Her overcharge effect will increase her own arts performance for 3 turns, activating first, base 10% here. So she will get stronger with every loop and refund better with every loop. That's definitely a nice aspect to have in an arts units kit. So now that we've looked at that, let's talk about Summer Bashone's refund. These numbers do include the 10% per turn per poisoned enemy hit. Now, our first scenario here is we're going to look at only one enemy with even one overkill hit. Even one, meaning up against one enemy, you got an overkill hit, so you killed the enemy. Even just one overkill hit, Bashone refunds 49%, which is, as we know, due to rounding, 50%. So, right there, against a single enemy, Bashone is going to refund enough to be able to Black Grail loop. Taking a look at 3 enemies, for instance, at 0 overkill hits, meaning we didn't even kill the wave, Bashone with a double Castoria setup refunds 121%. So yeah, you're just going to be swimming in Ps and getting more overcharge ranks with additional charge skills being used and stuff is certainly not unfeasible. So it's definitely something to pay attention to, the way her overcharge works and the fact that you can get more refund, more damage out of it. So as we look towards this, probably her worst case scenario is going to be either against assassins, her true counter class, or berserkers, who have the worst refund numbers in the game. And against 3 berserkers, she still, with no overkill hits and double Castoria, refunds 105%. With only 1 berserker, you're looking at needing probably 6 out of 8 overkill hits to hit 50%. But let's be honest, at 0, it's 41, almost 42%. So it's not like you would need a whole lot of extra charge just to get her to that 50% at that point. So yeah, refund is not going to be a concern for Bashone as long as there's poison in play. And based off the way that skill works, there really should almost always be poison. Taking a look at Bashone's let's not look at the self numbers. Let's look at the charge scenarios now that we've talked about this. Because again, as you guys can see, Bashone does have some party capabilities. So this is her always in a devoted comp, surrounded by multiple different types of support. But we can get away with even something like a mana loading append, Shufu, Mozart, and even somebody like Mary Anning as a third support with our version 10 plug suit that has 10% charge. And that would loop her from 0. So you don't even need full tier supports. Heck, we can get away with the mana loading append, Shufu, Mozart with his new buff, and just the original, well, sorry, not original Summer Mystic Code, but I believe it's Summer 7 Mystic Code that gives you additional charge there that you can split up. Refund's not a concern. It's more about how much damage do you need to clear the waves. That's really it. Sorry, Summer 8, thank you. You're not really going to have to care about the charge scenarios too much. As long as you understand the way her stuff works and how much refund she's going to get at points, she should be fine. Now, let's take a look at Bashone's self-buff damage only. So this is raw numbers in a neutral environment. Again, like I said in a prior video, please don't take raw numbers too seriously, guys. I see a lot of people that try to like jump off cliffs and try to hold these numbers over other people. Really, raw numbers are not a true test of a lot of Servant's capabilities at this point in the game. But you guys can see the scalability that's at play here. With the number of poison stacks, you can really amplify her damage. She is AoE. She is somebody that you guys can get multiple copies of. So certainly somebody that could maybe be a little bit of a better loop for you. The problem is we do have welfares out there like Sieg that you guys can count on. So at least when you're using someone like Bichon, you're going to know that you're not going to have to care too much about the refund. Especially for players that don't have robust accounts or robust setups. That's going to make Bichon a very nice asset to have. Somebody that can just kind of loop easily and work their way through nodes, even if they maybe don't have the best damage output. But that poison niche is also going to really help her out because stacking poison is going to let her take down harder enemies over time. Taking a look at where her actual damage scenarios are, again, not the best, but we're looking at NP1 here. As we start to look at NP5, these numbers are actually very respectable. So depending on how much you rolled for Bichon, you can definitely get some decent damage numbers out there. And maybe not everyone's going to have a level 100 Black Grail. They're not going to have double Castoria Oberon, that sort of stuff. I get it. But ultimately, the takeaway here is that Bichon can scale to the capability of your account. And that's a good thing. That definitely makes her a good unit to have. Comparing to someone like Anastasia, who certainly has at least finally gotten an upgrade, she can still potentially outscale her depending on the NP levels that you have. Looking at this, you're going to be looking at more like an NP2 of Bichon to outscale Anastasia, but again, you could also potentially have NP2 of Anastasia. Da Vinci Caster, a little bit better in terms of output, not necessarily the easiest unit to loop with, but still at 307, you're going to be looking at probably NP3 of Bichon to outscale her. Gilcaster's another 4-star by comparison, and his numbers are a lot closer to Bichon's in that regard, where having the poison niche, you're going to be able to see like, yeah, it's going to be decently close, but you would probably need NP2 to outscale NP1 of Caster Gil, and a lot of people are going to have Caster Gil at higher NP levels, so it is what it is. Tai Sui is at least a anti-man attribute AoE arts alter ego, but keep in mind that while he does have his anti-assassin append, he only has 1.5 times modifiers for things like assassins. So he's not necessarily going to have the full 2.0 modifier that someone like Bichon will have. So there is definitely a little bit of a difference there in that regard. And there's also Coup Caster. So it is what it is. It definitely doesn't have to be the like end-all be-all unit, especially if you're already planning to roll on a banner that Bichon is on. But I do see Bichon as being a very nice unit to have, especially for newer accounts, where she can definitely just handle a lot of the charge for you. Maybe not the highest in terms of damage output, but again, as we mentioned, that poison's going to let her ramp over time. Definitely also be something that we see a lot of new units going up against. So I think that Bichon can be a quality unit for people. She's definitely not a gotta have. But let me know what you guys think about her, where you guys see yourself using her, what you guys maybe are going to do with the poison memes. I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys for the next video. There we go. I actually really like Bichon's kit. Okay, and last but not least, chat, Summer Habitrot. Summer Habitat, we're just going to do a quick analysis of. She's definitely someone that's a little bit weird in terms of the way that she works. She, as you guys know, is part of the current Kaiju Battle event for Summer this year. She is a single target pretender that is Buster based. And that definitely makes her a little bit of an oddity in terms of the way that she works, especially given how they've kind of handled her kit. So again, we're just going to favor this. We're going to skip over the usual drivel and just skip right to the skills. Talk about where I see some issues and where I see things being good. For starters, her having 30% charge per hit whenever she like takes that attack is just really strong. It means that with that taunt, she is almost guaranteed to get back all of her charge, because this is not including the amount that she gets per hit, which is 3%. That 3% plus 30%, if she's hit 3 times in a node, that's 100% charge right there. That's 99%. It will round up. So right off the bat, that's just a 100% charge skill. She has Guts here with 3,000 HP at the max rank. She, again, can gain critical stars whenever she uses the skill. So I do think that first skill there is really nice. Party-wide anti-demonic undead certainly can have its uses as a little bit of support. Also, immunity to ailment debuffs for the party for 3 turns, definitely nice, and max HP up. So she does have some potential use as a little bit of a situational support. You can gain critical stars as well from this skill, reduce all enemies debuff resistance, and inflict skill seal. And then her third skill is going to increase her own quick and bust performance, and then scale how much her own attack damages depending on how many stars there are, up to 99. So this is actually really interesting that you could get some real synergy with her by throwing on things like Fragment of 2030, throwing like Merlin in the party and having his MP rolling with more stars. So there's a lot of capability to make Habitat at least card hard here. It's going to increase her own NP damage by 10% times N for 1 turn, where N is her own max HP up stat count, a maximum of 5. Now, you guys did see she really only gets the max HP up from one skill. So this is not too crazy scalable, but you could get it from other sources. Again, definitely an interesting thing. And yeah, you guys can see at 99 critical stars, the max attack is 50% up. Definitely a strong capability there. Her Guardian Fairy EX trait is certainly interesting, as it increases the defense of the ally directly behind herself 1 slot to the right by 10% when she's on the field. Grants them ignore defense class disadvantage while herself is on the field. In other words, she takes the unit will take 1 time from class disadvantage. That's potentially life-saving depending on what's going on. Like, let's say you had like a support caster in the composition and the boss was a writer and just hated that. Having Habitat in the party would at least make it so that they're not getting hit full bore on that. Her third append is anti-berserker. There's definitely some applications there, though a lot of this will probably revolve around skill reloading, the special attack, and the extra attack finesse. Her Noble Phantasm is 5-hit single target, as we mentioned, deals damage to a single enemy, increases their own damage by 10% times N for 1 turn, where N is the number of enemies. So this could also be to your advantage, but still, with her being a single target unit, you don't want to be throwing her in all the time against like an entire array of enemies. She's going to deal 150% extra damage, though, against super large enemies, and as a pretender, there's definitely some capability there for her to pop off and do some good damage. Again, it's going to increase her own bust performance for 3 turns, activating first by 10%, so this will keep going, and the more you use her NP, the more benefit you're going to get in that regard. Let's take a look at Habitat's self-damage only. This is, again, her raw numbers here. She is single target, so like we were comparing to KP Ultra's base raw value was like 75k or something. This is certainly a lot lower, but consider that you are going to get NP5 of her as a welfare, and now you're staring at 67k. So definitely a little bit toned down, but still good. She also has anti-demonic and undead niche. She has the super giant, super effective. So there's a lot of potential scalability in terms of her overall firepower here. And these niches are not uncommon. Demonic and undead are fairly common. Supergiant, a lot of a lot of boss enemies can be that. So this does make her a pretty decent welfare as a pretender. If we're going to compare, we have two very obvious ones. Sorry, hold on. That was the raw numbers. Let's take a look at her actual numbers first. This is her actual one-shot damage numbers. You guys can see base at NP5 of 823 with Double Koyanskaya Oberon. Certainly a very, very strong amount there. Adding in the power mods and the super effective damage. And you guys can see, this is no joke. This is 1.4 million on a welfare in terms of damage output. Yeah, this is them buffed to the gills, but ultimately this is pretty strong. Just consider it is a pretender, and that pretender has that 1.5 times modifier rather than 2 times. So, at least for a lot of scenarios. So, again, certainly not the strongest, but pretty darn good in terms of raw firepower for what you would need. Taking a look now at Phantasm Moon. You guys can see Phantasm Moon, a little bit of capability there, but doesn't necessarily scale as much, and you're probably going to need that like NP2 to truly rival the maximum number that you could put out here. But that's talking about the maximum number. How often are you going to encounter that? I don't know. Phantasm Moon at least has anti-evil, again, anti-man from Koyan, and the ability to combine that. So that's a little bit of a common one as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to roll Phantasm Moon because you like Phantasm Moon. If you don't roll Phantasm Moon, then you will at least have Summer Habitat coming around later as a backup option. Now, unfortunately, we have another comparison here to Hephaestion as a single target pretender, but that's not much of a comparison. Hephaestion just does not do as good of damage unless we're looking at like NP5 of her, and that's a little bit harder to get NP5 of comparatively. So taking a look at those numbers to Habitat's base values here, and yeah, you guys can see that one turn burst is just not going to rival Summer Habitats, which is unfortunate, but it just sort of is the way it is. Hephaestion has a lot of breadth in what she can hit, at least semi-effectively. So, given the fact that she's a permanent unit, she can spook you at any point, and she is artsy, there is that loopability aspect to her. I don't feel like it's a huge deal, but I could definitely see how some people would, and how some people would say, oh, now that I've got Habitat, I'm never going to touch Hephaestion. And I think that's a fair assessment depending on how you feel about things and where you guys see yourself using your pretenders. So again, Habitat, not the best unit in the world, a little bit clunky in terms of her design, but ultimately still a quality kit and still someone that can pump decent damage in the right scenarios. So I do think this is a good welfare for them to give us, especially since Pretender hasn't been the most common class in that regard. But let me know what you guys think about this one. Okay, chat. Sick. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, let's talk about the main thing. The reason everyone came to stream today. The reason that you all follow me. You guys are here for this. And I know it. Wait, just take me to the servant page. Good lord. Okay. So, I've seen and heard a lot of feedback on this. And I want to start out with a potentially polarizing statement. Anyone that thinks that this buff is bad or is too strong is wrong, and you should not listen to them. And I'm going to explain this straight up by explaining what Maid Alter is and where Maid Alter has come from. Over the past day and a half here, since this buff has come out, I have been told that Maid Alter was everything from overpowered to super high damage to useless to low damage. They should have ignored her. I've been told that she can't loop. I've been told that her carding sucks. Hi, name's Kadroth. I have a 120 NP5 Maid Alter. She's my Grand Rider. And I have used her a shit ton. And I can flat out tell you, most of those people making those statements are wrong. Maid Alter, when she first came out, definitely didn't have the most robust kit, but she did have the reloading meme. And that reloaded meme allowed her to amplify her damage. Even back then, 3 turns was an insanely low cooldown, and we were able to double up on this and make it so that for 1 turn, Maid Alter could pop off with that 60% juicy quick up. That allowed Maid Alter to be the highest damaging rider in the game. On her release, that is the way that she was. And historically, over time, Maid Alter has been one of the hardest hitting one of the hardest hitting units in the game. Again, let me restate this for you. For a couple of years after her release, Maid Alter was still one of the hardest hitting units in the game. What does she trade for that? She has no survivability. She has no charge. She was a glass cannon. That's why she was one of the hardest hitting units in the game. But you guys have seen how the game has progressed. We've had power creep like crazy. Everybody has charge skills now. Everybody has solemn defense and multiple turns of invincibility and all sorts of card shuffling and crit damage skills and crazy stuff that just allows them to pop off now. Damage values in the game have gone up exponentially as power creep has just come for just about every single class at this point. And a lot of our single target riders were left behind. Ozzy was the prime beneficiary for the riders because he got a nice buff and he has been standing at the top of the pack ever since he got that nice buff. My Kets fans are somewhere off in the distance screaming and rolling in their graves because they were at parity with Ozzy even through the first round of buffs, and then Ozzy got a Noble Phantasm buff and Kets never did. So at the end of the day, Ozzy's been one of the few that lucked out and got that attention. Most of our other single target riders haven't. So for a lot of people saying like this buff is too strong, I'm going to hearken you back to Musashi getting a buff and people saying it was too strong. And I'm talking about Saber here, not Berserker. I'm going to hearken you back to Melt getting a buff, Kama getting a buff. Most of these are buffs that are in response to other things. In fact, the one that probably isn't is Melt's. Melt as an extra class got really, really strong and started putting pressure on the entire Cavalry Triangle as an alter ego. And we're going to talk about that right here, right now. Because that number has been dethroned. And it actually had been dethroned even before Maid Alter. But the point being, I think we have a problem when people are saying, don't use a rider, don't use a berserker, don't use a caster, don't use an assassin, just use Melt. And I'm not trying to say this to hurt Melt fans' feelings. I think Melt's a great character and a great unit. But if we have people going around saying that, we have a problem. If the actual solution is to just ignore the base classes of the game and just use a one-size-fits-all solution, that's a development and balance issue. And that's something they need to deal with, or else people aren't going to roll other units. I see this argued all the time where it's like, no, these don't need it. And it's like, yes, they do. If you want people to roll the unit needs to be competitive. Again, we're going to go back to where I was just talking about Basshone for the summer units there. Basshone, I think people liked her design. They liked her as a character. Her implementation was not great, though, and so a lot of people just didn't roll. People can like a character and still choose to abstain from rolling. And we see this as well with Maid Alter, where I don't think a lot of people were rolling her because they thought the kit was bad. As someone that has used her profusely over the years, it is not a huge concern for this. Yes, if you knew how to use her, you could get a lot out of her still, but a lot of people nowadays are very reductive with their analysis of things, and they don't like if a unit just simply doesn't have charge or doesn't have survivability. They're going to view that as some insurmountable thing and just say that this unit is bad and that you should never use them. I have always on this channel tried to focus on how you guys can use units effectively. I'm going to go back to the Maid Alter has bad cards. Maid Alter does not have bad cards. She has 4 cards that basically can generate Noble Phantasm, and the hit counts on those cards are still to this day what we consider to be average. Back then they were not. They were above average. So that's something to have context for, and her NP charge attack rate at 0.59 is still pretty decent. So yeah, maybe it requires her to have some crits, but I have absolutely watched Maid Alter Noble Phantasm and then crit her way right back to full. Is that something you can expect in every scenario? No. But is it something that you absolutely can have happen and will have happen the more you use Maid Alter? Yes, absolutely. There is some card RNG aspect to it, but if you're using her as a boss killer, it's going to happen more often than not. So let's bring that back and let's focus exclusively on Reloaded. They've already buffed Maid Alter's second skill. And when I say buff, we got to put that shit in quotation marks because it was the epitome of not a buff. I remember when she got this buff, people complained because, and I quote, she was already the strongest rider. Why did you buff her? And I'm reminding people of that. Why am I reminding people of that? Because, again, this sounds like it's counterproductive to my point. I'm reminding people of where Maid Alter came from because it puts this buff into perspective. Buffing her and her numbers being really strong is not a bad buff. She was always supposed to be this strong. She's just been surpassed over the years. So, again, people dancing on her grave were not understanding that this was the intended design of this unit, was to hit hard and be a glass cannon. But again, this buff, when she gets it, it just fixes a problem in her kit, which was that you had the 1000 health demerit for a relatively lackluster cooldown skill. This, though, now adds in the ability to give herself HP up, giving her a little bit more survivability. Is it great? Is it hard survivability? No, it's not. But it's still something. So it is what it is, but it's on a delayed effect. Now they've come back in and they said, look, Maid Alter needs something. She's kind of fallen by the wayside. People are just sitting there using welfares over her. There's no real reason to roll this unit at the current point in time. And they say, we need to fix this. I know, let's give her damage. That's exactly what they do. They come in here with high reloaded EX. They don't change the cooldown because they know that that would be insane, especially since 5th Append exists nowadays. And they come in here and they say, hey, let's keep that same basic effect, but now let's also add NP damage up 1 time 3 turns to that. So, boom, there you go. There's 30% NP damage. So we doubled the damage output of this skill that can be doubled up. So there you go. This NP damage is going to be applied twice. Throwing an Oberon, there you go. It's 60% NP damage that's going to then be doubled. From here, hey, let's address that refund issue. Let's make it so that she is more consistent by giving her charge. Boom, immediately they give her 30% charge. This is now going to help her operate in multiple damage dealer setups, take out, those single enemy waves in a farm node, or again, just get back to an NP faster. This is an excellent addition. This is something that she needed. On top of that, hey, let's just give her crit stars so that if somehow this is still not enough, let's make it so that her cards do have a better chance at critting and she does have a better chance at getting back to full. This unit is hard to evaluate. This unit is the easiest unit in the world to evaluate if you understand it. People just don't understand this unit. So again, Reloaded EX, absolutely fantastic. Amazing buff. It addresses most of the issues that you have with Maid Alter. I've seen some people be like, this buff didn't address her survivability, therefore this is a bad buff. I don't have time to talk about how brain dead of a take that is. But regardless, I'm just going to point out that a buff does not have to fix everything in a unit kit. Again, we still have the first skill that's unbuffed, and it certainly could probably use something. So it is the way it is. Her not having insane survivability is balance. That is her being a glass cannon. That is the design intent of this unit. And this is why, again, I'm saying this is that people understand. The devs have a tendency to buff along the design intent of a unit. This is why I've managed over the years to predict so many buffs for you guys. Because, again, I look at what I would do if I were the dev. And if I were the dev, I would say, this is the theme of this unit. Let's preserve that so that they keep their identity. Let's not try to make this unit like another unit. Let's try to keep this unit how they're supposed to be. That's what this buff does. This buff jacks up Maid Alter's damage, putting her right back on top where she should be, while not making her some unkillable juggernaut that would frankly challenge other units in her same niche. So again, this just preserves her as a high damaging unit. If you don't like it, you're probably biased or you don't understand this unit. That's the unfortunate truth that I have to put out there. It's not going to make people like me, but it is the truth. Maid Alter has always been a high damage unit. She was always intended to be a high damage unit. Them buffing this skill is not insane, and I hope they continue to buff more single target riders. More of them could use love. So let's take a look at Maid Alter's actual damage numbers to back up what I am saying. This is Maid Alter self buffs only. Again, we just got done talking about King Protea, where her base is like 75k. Two times reloaded jacks this number up quite a bit. All the way down here at MP5, yeah, you can see mine's going to be a little bit strong. How does Maid Alter now look in her best environment? These are essentially going to be her best environment numbers. You can 3-turn with her, albeit it's going to be a little bit spicy, but you can do it. And you can get decent numbers. The more MP levels you have, stronger it's going to be. One-shot damage is going to be pretty darn strong. One-shot damage with 2 times reloaded is going to be even stronger. The things you guys need to understand. One-shot damage with 2 times reloaded is not possible turn 1 at this number. What do I mean? Well, you can get the 5th append. That will lower the cooldown of reloaded to 2 turns. You can achieve this number if you wait, or, and I asked Avalon to run this, probably your best case scenario is this. This is Summer Scotty with G Unit, aka Geronimo. Geronimo got a buff to his quick up that is targetable. It is a 50% quick up for 1 turn that reduces cooldowns by 1 turn. This, in combination with Maid Alter's own cooldown reduction, means that we can pop reloaded twice in 1 turn if we have the 5th append. That's how you get that. But you can see, that's not that 900 number that we were just looking at. That's where it would be if you truly wanted a true 1 turn. rather than a delayed one-shot damage. There are multiple other units you guys can use for the cooldown reduction, but G-Man's going to have basically the highest modifier that you guys can provide. As for Darkness Battlefield with Summer Lilith, yeah, that's... And like I said, if we get someone that's easily able to provide that, sure, we can start looking at that. But at least as of right now, that sort of thing, not all too common. But again, I'm trying to show you guys numbers to give you guys perspective. And you might be saying, like, but why, CAD? Why did they need to do this? I still disagree with you. I think this buff is too strong. Because here's what Melt's numbers were. With Knights of Marines, this isn't even Black Grail, chat. This is just Melt doing stuff after this buff. Now, the thing to keep in mind is Melt's numbers are 1.5 times. But that Melt buff was pretty freaking huge. That Melt buff put pressure on every single target rider, assassin, caster, and berserker. That Melt buff made it where all of a sudden now you have an arms race. And unfortunately, our base classes have been losing that arms race for a long time. So again, you guys can see Melt sitting here at one-shot damage. Yeah, you can dethrone Melt. You can absolutely get more out of this if you so choose. Because again, keep in mind, Maid Altar's modifier, assuming we're going up against casters or berserkers, is going to be that 2 times. Melted an arms race? Well, she certainly ain't in the legs race. I'm sorry, that's fucked up. Anyways, Lilith is another one that put a lot of pressure. Same deal. It's also going to be a 1.5 times modifier. But you guys can see when Lilith comes out, she just moves the needle again. So why do we need to buff Maid Altar to be this strong? This is exactly why. You have these catch-all extra classes and berserkers that do shit tons of damage. Yes, your base classes need to do more than them. If not, why would you ever take them? That's the exact argument. I've seen people argue this since the beginning of the game. Like, just Oonga Boonga, just use berserkers. That's exactly why the devs are incentivized not to allow that. That's exactly why the devs should make things stronger than berserkers. Because the devs are in the business of making money. If they want to make money, they need to provide you with incentives to roll. Obviously, unit design is a huge incentive to most people. But, again, time has shown that people will not roll for units that are bad in mass. They will certainly roll for a unit if they think that the unit can be optimized and made to a point where it's competitive. But if they feel like the unit just doesn't have a good kit, doesn't perform well, they're not going to roll. And that's kind of what we see here. That's why they continue to give buffs to units. Again, we can go look at other games where they don't give buffs to units down the line. And you see as eventually power creep sets in, and the units that started out at the beginning of the game are just terrible in comparison to the units that currently are being released. FGO has that problem, but to a much smaller degree compared to other games, because a lot of our units are kept up. And our summer units historically hadn't gotten the most buffs, particularly some of our old summer units. I know there's still 1 or 2 out there that desperately could use them. Her getting this is not insane. Again, here's Ozzy for reference. Ozzy sitting here at 670 in terms of his actual firepower. Still going to be more than her in a 3 turn. And in terms of one-shot damage, going to lose ever so slightly. And that's assuming the man attribute doesn't come into play. So her being stronger is conditional. It's conditional based off of what's on the field for Lilith, what's on the field for Ozzy, what's on the field for Melt. That's the condition. It's a-okay for her to be at these numbers. In fact, it's good that she's at these numbers. Good. Do it again. Do it for other units too. Let Maid Altar be strong again. This is a fantastic buff. Everybody that says otherwise, wrong. And that is my honest to God's take on it. Summer Marie buff win? Exactly. And that's, again, part of the reason why, if it sounds like I have a little bit of rhetoric there, it's because I've heard people are talking shit about this buff. And I want people to know that they are wrong. Did you ever send me anything for Ashwataman? I don't remember. Never sent me anything for Fran either. But to be fair, we can still talk about him. So chat, Ashwataman, again, and you don't need to send anything. It's perfectly fine, Avalon. Ashwataman, they took his basic ass charge and survivability skill and they left it as that kind of, but they granted options now. He can grant himself self-invincibility for 1 turn, or he can grant himself guts now, that revives at 1 HP. So you can sacrifice the survivability for, I want to do more damage. I want my 1 HP meme. And that's excellent. This is a great buff for him in that regard. Still going to charge his own MP, but now also increases his own damage against the enemies with the burn status for 3 turns. That's good. And especially since we know that things like Honey Lake exist in the game. So this is just even more power mod for stuff like that. This is fuel for the fire, pun intended. So again, 30% modifier. It's just going to help Ashwataman be good at what he is already good at. And again, he is a 1 HP memer. So I think this is a solid buff for him. It's not game breaking. It's not something that's going to be like, oh my god, I have to have Ashwataman. But for what it is a good buff. Gee, chat, I wonder which skill they buffed. Oh wait, she doesn't have any buffs, so it has to be this one. So they took Summer Fran, who is a single target quick saver. Definitely a like fan favorite from back in the day. I think she was a little bit underappreciated because she had some demerits in her kit. Again, using this skill, which requires you to be 10% gauge or higher, and then it drains her, but it increases her NP generation rate for 3 turns by how much? 80%. That is insane. So she's always been a really fun unit to use because, yeah, she would just loop back to full like crazy. A little bit like similar to like me talking about Maid Alter with the crits. You get Fran in there with her NP and some decent like refund and like boom, all of a sudden she's back to full. The problem is, again, the demerits. You guys can see she did have a 5-hit NP. It's quick. It's on its own power, not going to generate too much. But now we've changed it. It's still the 80%, but now it charges her own NP gauge instead of draining it by 30%. So this is a 40% swing as they got rid of the demerit. You can now use it anytime. It's going to grant a debuff on attack for 3 turns that inflicts galvanic corrosion debuff for 3 turns whenever she attacks. Critical damage resistance down by 10%. So again, this is definitely nice, and we can stack it, and we can get even more crit damage out of this. A crit damage resistance down is the same thing as a crit damage up on you. Then anybody that has this, we get a 20% power mod against them. So this is just fantastic. This is going to apply to the NP. It's going to apply first, and it's just going to be an additional power mod. So they literally gave her charge, the ability to inflict additional crit damage to enemies, and anybody that she debuffs with this, she also does just straight up 20% more damage to. So it is buffing her NP damage, buffing her ability to get to her NP, and buffing her crit damage. You can't ask for a better buff in that regard. This just hits everything that you want a unit to be better at. So again, a very, very solid buff for Fran, and A+ for getting rid of one of the game's more annoying demerits. This just makes her more usable, straight up. Now, let's get rid of the stupid tchotchke health demerits. There's no reason to do that. Or better yet, give her an additional power mod whenever she is burning herself. Do it again for other Fran? Yeah. Straight up. I gotta say, I at least like that while this lineup of summer units is not my favorite, they are at least still going through and giving buffs to some units that need it during summer. I think that's fantastic. I think they should do more of that. Keep it up, devs. Absolutely great job. Really nice MP game with the cards. Yeah, I mean, again, she had 0.7. It was never bad. Plus, again, as we look at these hit counts, you can tell, like, somewhere around Summer 2 there, they kind of figured out, like, wait, cards need to have higher hit counts. One hit counts suck. And obviously, it is very much to their benefit. And chat, that is all of our summer units gone over. That is all of our buffs talked about. Unless one snuck by me. I don't know. Okay, chat. Let's see if I can get my 5 rungs of Ordeal Call 3 done. We finished Ordeal Call 2 the other day. I technically still have the appendix. Chat, how long is the appendix? Does anyone know? I did the free daily on JP, yeah. And then if we have time at the end of stream, I will have a surprise for chat. Wish we didn't have to wait till summer for all these buffs, but wanting more buffs more often is not happening. Look, as long as they keep the buffs up, I think people will be happy. If they don't keep buffs up, it's going to piss people off. But yeah, let's go ahead and do this. I assume it won't be too long. This is the appendix to Ordeal Call 2. This is what happens after you win. So I assume it's a little bit of a connection. I'm going to kill the GoldenEye swing version and turn on music. Appendix is 4 minutes according to Atlas. Oh, that's fine. On Miyoji. Yes, you're both assholes. Yes. I was gonna say, if you guys remember during the fight, he There was like Doman's talisman, and it literally skill sealed him. Mambo-chan. Yeah, she's generic, but there's nothing wrong with being generic, right? Like sometimes that's a good thing. Especially when you start considering like the game from the perspective of a new player. New players just need characters that can be consistent for them. Because a lot of the characters that are available to new players are not the best. It's really interesting, though. I don't know why they didn't just stuff the Doman line at the end. And basically, like, not even do this appendice. Like, I don't mind getting a little bit of a short story after the end. It's just, like, it's odd to me that they felt the need to do this. Are we finally gonna get some Abby explanation after Salem? Well, that's foreshadowing. It would have only been the main classes, yeah. Yeah, again, it's still really interesting. I still truly don't understand why they, like, had to sit there and be like, oh, the Avengers are gone. They don't need to be. Alright, chat, now we're on to Ordeal Call 3. I am on Section 3. Most of you are probably further than me at this point. Alright. Mysterious astronaut. BB. Somehow it's just one class that can't be there, yeah. I'm surprised BB can't just hack into the system. Hold up a mirror! It's a great name! AI never lies to humans. That's not true. I literally saw something today where they were like asking Claude Code because Claude Code was like, oh yeah, like Bruce said this, and they were like, who the heck is Bruce? And the AI was like, I made him up. Like, so you lied. They do sometimes hallucinate. Yeah, there you go. I guess you could call it that. That really is all it is a hallucination. It is funny though, because all this talk about AI and the singularity, and like literally Nasu got asked about this during an interview, and he's like, no, I just like, because you guys got to remember, this came out 2 years ago. A lot of our like large language models and stuff have been developed in the last 2 years, so this was extremely topical when it came out, and everyone's like, how the heck did he do this? Because this had to have been written ahead of time. And he was just like, well, he's like, I wrote it based off of how AI should be. It just was funny to me because it reminded me a lot of like Kojima basically predicting events as well. This is made AI, that's how he knew. Yeah. She didn't banish all the servants herself, she just cut off the magical energy needed to keep them around, which made them return to Chaldea automatically. Because Ereshkigal wasn't someone she summoned. I used independent manifestation when our trip to Dubai began. You should get AI Tech Bros to read OC3. Don't give them ideas. They'll try to absolutely destroy humanity if you do that. Cause she's a beast. From carbon-based life forms to beings of pure intelligence. So, there you go, and that makes sense, right? Like, we had wondered what had happened. She said humanity was extinct here. Humanity isn't truly extinct. And to understand why this is something that hadn't gotten pruned is because humanity effectively evolved in this thing. It's the idea of transcending into becoming like a robot or an AI. But because of this, as you guys can see, it achieved immortality and everlasting world peace. In other words, stagnancy. And since BB Dubai is in control of it, it's even more terrifying. I mean, the moon cell probably will actually get created, at least to an extent. Yep, and then we're gonna get everyone to vote for her, and then right at the last second, she's not gonna kill us. The moon is hot as hell. Kind of, right? Like, if you could bury it far enough down, you'd be fine. But that in and of itself would be a little bit of a difficulty. There's a sandworm. Sandworm isn't a chat. It's all good, white flags. It was probably more or less my internet that had issues. The Beast of Null. Also, I like how, like, we saved her and everything. She's like, you have to prove yourself to me. Like, what do you mean, woman? You would be dead right now if not for us. Oh, joy. My Saberface only run where I'm restricted to... using not Saberfaces. Yep, and since she has to be in the starting slot, I can't even do anything there. Mash best Saberface. Yeah, all I can try to do is try to put one of the Saberfaces in the front line. Cool. Please leave. Oh wow, she's got a bar pop. Five left? Disgusting. Well, he doesn't have invul and pierce, so we're just gonna do that. I have to use other people's cards here regardless. So I am just going to... I'm going to use Vivi Dubai to generate as many stars as she possibly can while trying to break through the invincibility. That's effectively a null turn. Distant mash weeping. Yep. Okay. That's gonna be close. If she gets hit for 10%, I'll be fine, but... Yes! You fool! You played yourself. God, fuck it. Insult to injury time. I forget Drake has a Saberface sometimes. Yeah, like... It's so funny how survivability was the foremost problem for Saberfaces, and it still kind of is. But, like, getting such high-octane solutions, especially like Castoria Berserker, where she provides survivability, is just really helped out the Saberface runs a ton. BB's minus 100% attack would help. It would, but I was trying not to use them. Like I said, I literally had to use BB's cards at that point because it just was what it was. Like, a little bit, that's one of those where the game put 3 non-Saberface units in the front line. There's not much I can do. I can rotate for one of them, but that's about it. And honestly, I don't even know that I needed the mash skill in the end. It's an AoE NP. Game's a bit loud. I can turn it down some. Should be better. Okay, that's 2 out of 2. We have to finish 5 of these, chat. Ah, Janako, she's just lazy. He's a Chaldean servant, just like Mr. Oh, Bartholomew Roberts. I read Mr. Roberts as, like, a completely different reference. The only BB permitted to enter the city is BB Dubai. Definitely one of the potential paths humanity could take in the future. I like how at this point people just take it for granted. Huh. Mess you up about the future? What do you mean? Interlude. Hopefully this counts. An Earth restoration effort gone bad. A water planet. What the fuck is that? She's got ribbons in her hair. Wonder if that's melt. Wait, really? That's definitely Koinskaya. Narcissism. Arcuate? This one's too difficult. It's too formless. Well, we know one of them is Janako. And I assume that Janako is C. Well, actually, yeah, we know Janako's C. It's your GSSR role, Jesus. Huh. Yeah, the phrasing of "it's been too long since we've had a master" is certainly interesting. What? I think this is a job for Morgan. Basically, since we kind of have a like split of classes. Do they think this node is made for Maid Alter? I don't know. It could be because the boss is a caster. My god, is that Starbucks? Starbucks. Master Bucks. For the old humans who will come here. Jesus. Just eating donuts. There you go, G. And thank you for linking at age. Googling the bland name product trope. Mm-hmm. Just gonna abuse that to get a little bit more charge for him. That's right, it's why I hadn't had to think about the Saberface only run. We've basically been force support the whole freaking time in this Singularity. That actually was a suboptimal choice for cards. I should have done Buster first. Yeah, basically I'm forced into using it. Good, he didn't kill. Every patch is notes for workers' comp update, yeah. Well, it's funny because I was trying to remember, it's like, did I actually start this by doing the Saberface only? It's like, yes, I have. I just haven't had the ability to use the Saberface. Damn, it's Mr. Steal Your Girl chat. Also, am I right to assume that, like, Ereshkigal just flew the fuck off? So wait, let's see. Did I complete all of my missions? Complete. Okay, yeah, so we did finish all of the limited time missions. Didn't even call you a baka first? True. Yeah, see chat, I think you guys just didn't realize that I actually did press that button. Gonna turn that off so that we don't just have that constantly playing. Turn the music back on. Wait, where was it going? By default, I go to that screen now. Okay, sorry, I've already bought my tickets. Oh. It's funny that this came on right after the prior one. I'm doing research, chat. Man, she is right on par with Summer Ibuki. Hmm. All right, let's go. Before I regret, Benny seems like the most fun servant. Benny Benny is uniquely positioned for my JP account because I don't have a Buki. Where I have Musashi, she's pretty strong, but Musashi doesn't have charge, and that gets me in trouble sometimes. Benny does. Benny also will act as a little bit of a like challenge berserker, where she's gonna preserve an arts party. So it's where I was like, you know what? Maybe I will. Truthfully, there's nobody in this lineup that I really need. But I looked at this and I was like, yeah, if I could swing a copy or two of Benny, that would actually really help my JP account's longevity. Because, like I said, when you have Musashi as your only AoE berserker, like I have an NP1 Morgan. It's not great, right? But like it at least allows me to have another arts looper that is sustain rather than short term. Musashi charge buff incoming. If that happens, dear lord. And the crazy part is, I could see something like that actually happening. If they did, it wouldn't be a lot. Like, it'd probably be like 20 or 30%. But it would be monumentally game changing for her. But this is why I said I had a surprise in the stream chat. Because I know people weren't expecting me to roll. And truly, I wanted to get done with all the analysis. I wanted to go through all the units. I wanted time to think. I also wanted to accomplish my goals of, like, catching back up on story and everything. Which, like, right now, at least we're in OC3, and we can progress on that front. And I've got 41 days to finish OC3, so it'd be easy. 50% charge in the Saberface game? Yeah. I'm in too deep now to give up. But just don't burn yourself out, William. There will always be another banner. I mean, neither Musashi has charge, but yeah. You need to use all of her skills turn 1, but that makes her hit less hard. I've found that it doesn't make a huge difference on her refund. So usually if I'm worried about the damage, I wait and pop it. But if I'm not worried about the damage like I am in most scenarios, I just go ahead and use it. The big thing with Musashi is Musashi pretty much does need triple support. Because ultimately her refund out of the gate wasn't the best. It probably should have been stronger for an entirely refund-based unit, but I digress. And that's also why I could see them eventually giving her charge. It would probably make some people scream, but I could see it. Interesting. So I get 100. I get 100 mana prisms for doing a 10 pull. I think it was 50 before, so I guess they doubled it. You'd be so broken with the charge buff. I mean, like, she's already just very strong in damage output, but truly, unless you consider sabers her niche, she doesn't really have a niche that, like, stands out where you're like, oh my god, like, she's so much stronger than this other berserker. Like, it's not a big deal. I still remember people, like, getting really upset over the amount of damage that she did to sabers. And I'm like, if you want to be upset on behalf of the archers, sure. But being upset on behalf of other berserkers didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Give her the Arturia NP enemy buff. I see. Just to further invalidate the archer class? No, we're good. And it's really interesting, not to spoil anybody that hasn't played LB5, but with how Musashi ends up in LB5, to keep things vague, I would really like to see something like that where you get a new version of Musashi and it's Space Musashi. And that would be, like, so freaking hilarious to me. Or better yet, make Space Musashi just an actual archer. Arts looping itself is a real pain in the ass compared to Buster looping. And I feel like Buster looping's more cumbersome. Because Buster looping, you usually have to double up skills. Arts looping, I just set it and forget it. Archer Space Musashi, but she has a power mod against Rider trait servants, so it invalidates MHX. I mean, MHX is already in a weird spot. Also, chat, was that a mineral? It was? God damn. Yeah, JP definitely still punishing me. Buster looping's more comfy not worrying about refund. See, I hear people say that. Do you guys actually worry about refund? Like, the majority of the time, I don't. The majority of the time, I just know I'm gonna loop. And it's not something I worry about. Wait, you are rolling? Yep, this is why you guys gotta stay tuned towards the end of streams. People all run away at the end of stream. It's bedtime. And I'm like, nah. I only care about it for non-333 waves. Yeah, that's a fair point. Even then, there's some units where it's just like, I know they're gonna loop. Like, for instance, let's take Surfmo, right? You can throw one enemy in there and I'm like, she's still gonna loop. Your comp actions are most likely wrong. Yeah. Even then, I would argue, like, let's say, God forbid, you fuck up the loop. Okay, finish the loop, and then the next run of it, you immediately rectify it, and it's no longer an issue. So, but I found myself worrying about refund a lot. Yeah, newer accounts certainly will. Like newer accounts, you don't have your skills maxed. You don't have a breadth of options to help you. You don't have a lot of like CEs and stuff to help you. So it makes sense. The thing for that is like for newer accounts it's usually much harder to buster loop. That's the problem. Arts is by far and away the easiest to set up. Holy double minerals fucking Batman. I reject your reality and I replace it with my own. When you get back-to-back minerals, chat, you close out of the game and you reopen it and you hope that your luck has changed. My alt account that only has Shufu. Well, if it were on JP, now it also has Mozart. Dan letting me down, letting me down. I guess Maid Altar gets a raid up here. That'll be nice in the future. I don't remember what my Maid Altar is on JP. Totally not superstitious rituals. Yeah. Yeah, if anything, I would say, like, Quick would be the one that you guys would be really worried about looping with. And even then, you can still kind of brute force it. So, at least we got the 4-star CE. I will say their CE art this year is really good. But yeah, in general, with Buster, yes, you know you're going to refund if you have enough. Because really, you're not refunding. You're just brute forcing it, right? The problem is with Buster is it's easily the most cumbersome of all of them to perform. So, Then it comes down to what compositions can you form? Like, do you have an arts team? Do you have a buster team? Do you have a quick team? And from there, who's best suited to the node? I have found, all things being equal, that if I can do a node as an arts unit, it is usually the best solution. The exception would be if the arts comp does not have enough damage and I'm like required to use like a Castoria MP or something. Okitan Summer loops pretty well. Yeah, she's kind of the exception though. Sparking gonna be Bichon. There we go. At least we got one new unit. Like I said, I actually do really like her kit. She was a factor in why I chose to roll this manner. Because I looked at that, I was like, that seems really nice. And Sieg is a good unit. But if we want to talk about an arts unit that loops inconsistently, God, I fucking hate Sieg. A one-turn arts up is really annoying. You got Big Booba? Yeah. Have them do Shaka P, do art for another servant, right? Shaka P do be doing good work. Give redrop another, right? Yeah, see, so chat, behold, 3 minerals in a row, close out of the game, reopen it, immediately get 2 4-star CEs and the 4-star unit. Sometimes the gacha hates you. Sometimes you hate the gacha. You gotta self-sabotage with their NP. What, Nito Assassin? I mean, Nito Assassin at least they fixed, so... Unless you mean, like, OG Nito Caster. Then yes, technically, but there's no way in hell you're ever gonna refund enough. And instead you're just gonna brute force that with charge. Luck can always get worse. Yeah, unfortunately. Michonne's third ascension solely because it actually follows the laws of gravity. Yeah? How's Bob doing today? Play the Spire too. Nice. Oh, another Bichon? Okay. Sweet. Make her stronger. That way I don't have to use Sieg. I'll take it. Give me an actual arts looping caster. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Sieg because over the years of using him, I have found his output to be very inconsistent. Also because a lot of his damage output is reliant on him landing his defense down ahead of his MP, and it gets resisted sometimes. So I used to have a really high opinion of him, but now I'm like, why am I stuck with this? Why won't they give him a buff? Like, Sieg actually really could use one, just to improve his consistency. Another one. Gravity ain't shit. Maybe he can now that Michonne's here. Maybe. But this would be reliant on us to forget that Summer Marie exists. As we know, Summer Marie is not, in fact, a unit that was ever released into the game. Because surely, if she was, in fact, a unit that was released into the game back with Summer 1, surely she would have been buffed by now. That's Avalon's original character. I would believe it. What's weird is somehow I have a copy. You know what? It was probably what Avalon wished for on his birthday. Five-star C again. No, but my wish also didn't come true. I'm sorry, but... Damn, that's 3 5-star Cs in this pull. Holy shit. Also the spruced up origin bullet there. Cat, why am I listening to this? Cat, give me a catalyst for Benny. Gold orbs again. Wow, we went from like nothing to here you go. Aster again. The song worked. Yeah, I guess the honking sound. God damn it, chat. Look, more honkers. Uh Looking forward to showing myself. Yeah, like I said, I'm at least happy that I've gotten multiple copies of her. It is I'm beginning to wonder if the age-old prophecy holds true for me. And I'm like, I'm not gonna mention it until I'm done with rolls. Your wish to be freed from Sieg looping shall come true. Actually, Avalon, do you happen to have Sieg's numbers anywhere? I'm sure we've generated them at some point. Because I am just curious to compare. I hate that this is actually a decent rendition of it. I forgot it was 4 minutes long, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Let's see if it sparks. It does not. Yeah, there's Sieg's numbers. He's 287 against non-dragons. So she's 251 at MP2, 314 at NP5. The NP5 would be stronger, and that's without the poison niche. So actually, yeah, just the poison niche. The fact that I already have 3 Bashones, she's already stronger than him. Already stronger than Zeke. God damn it, dude. Cardboard is recycled. Yeah, feels good. I don't know why, but thematically she reminds me of Summer Chiome. I'd probably use the alter ego welfare we got a while back than see. You're talking about Tai Sui? Tai Sui doesn't have the best looping either, unfortunately. That's also kind of his issue. But his damage is a lot better than Sieg's, depending. Big Chungus, Big Chungus. Clearly, this is a catalyst for Binion. Since the song is called Chung Eater. Oh, there you go. Gold orbs. Caster again. God damn. Call Trubs? I'm pretty sure Trubs is asleep. Trubs is working like multiple jobs now. I feel bad for the man. Yeah, you guys gotta support Trubs more. Taisui is a better challenge quest unit for quests with a lot of enemies. Yeah, I agree. Like, Taisui in general is a really good unit. It's just his refund's not the best. But as long as you're up against 3 enemies consistently, you can usually get the job done, because worst case, you, like, card after it. Is that MP4 for already? Egg beater. Oh. I got a 19. MP4 plot dragon. Mm-hmm. Hell's Kitchen theme song. I'm pretty sure this is just an old song. How far am I gonna go for the burb? I don't know. I do think if I get MP5 Bichon, I'll probably stop. Because it's like, it's not like my need here is great, and I don't really need to keep rolling for no real purpose. To be able to 120 max a pen Bichon? No, 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 no. I don't need to blow my whole wad here. It's gonna be a bit, probably. Granted, she is the only 4-star in rate up, so it realistically shouldn't take too long. Normally with summer banners, we had like in the past 2 or even 3 historically SRs on the same banner, and that was awful trying to get in P5 of an SR. But with them doing it this way, it's far easier to get the SR because they're the only one on rate up. So odds are, if you get a servant, it's the 4-star, and the rate up one at that. The servant they revealed at the end of the event, I'm saving. Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess there's technically no guarantee that we get that character, but I would assume we do, based off the fact that we have the prior one. So, granted, Nasu's done freakier stuff, so. Huh? Oh, yeah, the honker. The big honker. Gonna end up being Quick Cayenne. It's really funny. We were actually talking about that earlier when me and Avalon were talking about Maid Alter, that we could see a future in which they provide a cooldown support for Quick. I don't know what that would mean for the game, though, because that would just erode Buster's niche. But there's already several Quick units that can reduce cooldowns. They're not supports units. They're usually like a damage dealer that has a targetable skill. And it's usually only one turn and not two. Hasn't Quick's niche already been eroded? Pretty much, so it eroding someone else's isn't the worst. Saber. Hi, Lakshmi. I don't I don't know if I have her in P5 on JP. I hope I do. Okay, chat, I did a skip just to see what it gives me. Throw another one in. I'm running low on time. Okay. Skip gang all day. So far, skip gang not winning. And I say that and I get rainbow orbs. Okay. Berserkar. There you go. We get Benny. What? JP, what are you doing? What are you doing, JP? This has never happened to me prior to this year. And then it happens immediately with the GSSR this year at anniversary, and now it hasn't even been a month, and it happens again. Like, how? Good lord, man. I think Freebird is the catalyst, chat. Okay, hold on. I gotta try. What? Imia! No! Go away! Come on, serve it. No. All right, chat. One more. One more. This is it. This is me trying for the NP5 Bichon. Running like a true gambler. Okay. Nothing. That's it. We're over. I should know not to go after the triple. The triple was like, bro, hit reset. Let me see who all's on. For those of you guys that stayed, there you go. You got a show right at the end. I cannot believe that. How does this happen again? I am not seeing anyone on tonight, chat. So we will go ahead and end it here. And again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being here for yet another insane roll moment. How does this game continue to surprise me? I do not understand. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be probably playing FGO again unless I have a change of heart. But again, hope you guys had a great evening. Hope you guys still have a good one. Get some sleep. I will see you all tomorrow. Later.